Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Dan Ratner on MFSN's The Hub Baseball Waiver Wire Show. I'm here with Casey Scheinwald, Vlad to the Bone, and Ross the Boss.
Hey everybody, I'm Ross the Boss, and I want to talk baseball waiver wire with you, cowboy. It's been an incredible week of baseball. 77 traded players last week alone. 77. So if I'm a baseball player, I'm sitting at home during the trade deadline, I'm looking at the TV. I'm not watching the cartoons like I usually do. I'm watching Sports Center. I'm watching MLB Network to see if I'm being traded. There were so many deals. The Cubs decimated their team. The Nationals decimated their team. And now we kind of have power teams now. Right, guys? We have the Mets. We have the Dodgers. We have the Padres. We have Houston with that great bullpen. It's going to be unbelievable. I can't wait for September. It's going to be great. It kind of screwed a lot of teams over, but oh well, you snooze, you lose. There you go.
All right, so let's jump in about a couple of changes on the show. Now, obviously, I have a different background. I'm in my doctor's set. It just had to be that way. But it's lit up blue, maybe for the Yankees, who got a lot of players coming in. But we're going to also change a little bit our format at this point in the year, because what we want to do is just jump in with 5 players each or so that we think are the players worth picking up. Now, remember, it's 60% and under owned in Yahoo, and we're not going to worry about position. We're just going to pick the 5 players that we think are the best to own. Ross, we're going to start with you. You give us 2, then we're going to go to Casey, then I'm going to jump in with some of mine because, hey, I'm not going to let you guys steal all my thunder.
No, of course not. And the first one I'm going to say is somebody that I liked last year. He was horrible last year. They brought him up. He's 23 years old. It's Jo Adell of the Angels. Jo Adell is somebody that in the minors this year, he's hitting 289, Casey Scheinfeld, 289 with 23 home runs. I know that's in the minor leagues. They brought this kid up ever since they brought him up. He's been hitting. He's been starting. I like him for the stretch run. I think he's going to be a very important piece for the Angels, especially. He's a fast guy. He'll get stolen bases for you too. So if you need a power stolen base guy, Jo Adell's your guy. I feel he's going to have a great August, September. Another one, I'll say a pitcher. I'm going to say Logan Webb. Logan Webb, the first couple months he was horrible. Dreadful, but he's been picking up the past like 5 starts. He's been 21 Ks, like out of like 20 innings or something. It's been tearing it up. More strikeouts than innings in the past 5 starts. ERA around 3. He's been pitching great. I feel Logan Webb is a great pickup right now if you need a starter on your team.
I think it's a great pick. All right, Casey, let's go to you for a couple picks. And remember, it could be hitters, it could be pitchers, you name it.
Okay, I certainly second the Jo Adell pick. That was my top pickup of the week. Certainly if it's a dynasty or keeper league, he's a must-own at this point if he wasn't already owned. I'm going to name somebody who I've been banging the drum on a couple weeks in a row now. He was just traded to the Seattle Mariners last week in one of those many trades that they did to strengthen their bullpen, and that's Abraham Toro. He qualifies at both second and third base, so he gives you multi-position eligibility, and second base is one of those positions that's notoriously thin or weak, so getting production there. And he's been tearing the cover off the ball for the better part of a month. The last 2 weeks alone, he's got 5 home runs and a stolen base to go with a 350 batting average, which is pretty darn impressive. In the last 30 days, his numbers aren't all that bad either. He's got a 275 average with 6 home runs, 3 stolen bases, 10 RBIs, 15 runs scored. So he's doing well across the board. And the same is true of the pitcher I'm going to mention because it's somebody I've mentioned a couple times. And that's I'm going to go with a starter. There's a lot of new relievers to look at. I think Dan's probably going to mention one of those that he's been banging the drum on. But I'm going to go with Patrick Sandoval in L.A. I think there's an East Coast bias against this guy because I don't know if a lot of people don't see him pitch because he pitches so late at night here on the East Coast. But in the last 30 days, he's got a 2.5 ERA, more than a strikeout per inning, and a 0.95 WHIP. He's not getting great wins because he's not getting a lot of wins because the Angels aren't a prolific offense. But in that number, those numbers only got even better in the last 2 weeks. In which I just noticed that Ross, you actually own this guy, so you should definitely be a fan of him. 14 innings pitched, 19 Ks, a 1.26 ERA with a 0.84 WHIP. He's putting numbers across the board in the last month that are going to help you in all those peripherals that you have to manage as you manage your innings in a pitching staff.
All right, I'm going to name some people that actually might surprise you. Now, here, but you have to put it in context. You have to remember it's this time of year when you really have to know what stats help you. So I'm not necessarily recommending the best players. What I'm recommending is the best players for your team. As an example, Kyle Seager, he's batting .220 in the last month. That's about what he bats in general. But he has 7 homers and 18 RBIs in the last month. If you need those stats, you got to go get it. Don't worry. I mean, it's a small sample size, that batting average. It can hurt you for a little bit, but maybe your batting average doesn't matter. What I want you to do is size up the stats that matter to you. However, there's also players like Akil Badu. I've been talking about him for a while. We've been talking about the Tigers a lot. This guy does everything. So sometimes you're going to need a player like that to plug in. Sometimes you're going to need a player like Kyle Seager or even Jorge Soler. I can't believe I'm saying it, but this guy has 8 homers in the last month. So pick the players that fit with the profile of the stats that you need. Ross, let's cycle back to you. Let's get a couple more ideas for pickups.
You said Solar, and who's your other pick?
Kyle Seager and Akil Badu. I mentioned 3.
Okay, well, you took 3. You broke the rule. Do a lap around the block. Rafael Ortega is leadoff for the Chicago Cubs. The Chicago Cubs are decimated. I mean, they lost their whole team. Their whole infield's gone. I mean, they said goodbye to everybody in the infield, and they lost to outfielders. I mean, that whole team is starting over again. I don't think they'll sign anybody that left. They're already bad-mouthing Rizzo and Baez. They're bad-mouthing these guys. They're saying these guys weren't in shape. I mean, who does that? What organization says bad things about players after they leave? Casey Scheinfold. So I like Rafael Ortega. He's been killing the ball. He had a home run on Saturday. I saw him hit a shot. It was like 470 feet. Unbelievable. Rafael Ortega is the leadoff guy for Chicago. He's 30 years old. I know you're saying, oh, Ross, he's old. 30 years old is not that old. And again, he's going to play for you for 2 months. He's hitting like 368. He's just been ripping the cover off the ball. Unbelievable. So for me, it's Rafael Ortega if you need like a good outfielder. And he can run too. He's not that slow. Another guy I like, he's the new closer for the Washington Nationals after a hand was traded over to Toronto. It's hard to keep track of these at Casey. This is tough. But Kyle Finnegan, who used to be a Cincinnati Red, and before that he was drafted. I remember when he was drafted by the Kansas City Royals. He was the first-round pick, went to the Reds, got hurt. The Reds dropped him. Now he's the closer for the Nationals, and he's been lights out ever since he got the closing job. I mean, this guy's been great. I don't know how many games the Nationals are going to win. They lost like their whole team. I mean, they got rid of a lot of good players except Soto. But if you need a closer and Finnegan's available, it's a really good pickup. He was so high on people's lists when he got drafted and he played for the Royals. He was unbelievable. And I remember he played he made his first appearance in the playoffs. And you're saying playoffs? Yeah, playoffs for Kansas City. But Kyle Finnegan's my second guy in my second round. I feel he is going to be tearing it up save-wise, so go pick him up.
All right, Casey, I'm going to jump in for a sec because I have a starter that I want to talk about. He's 60% owned, so he's just on the cusp. You're going to have to get him now. We've talked about Logan Gilbert before, but the reason I want to talk about him is that he's got 25 innings pitched in the last month, 34 strikeouts, 3 wins, and a 1.09 whip. His ERA is 4.21, so it looks like, maybe he's not that good. But all of these peripherals are saying he's going to be great. He was a dominant pitcher in the minor leagues. If you needed one starter that's 60% and under owned, he'd be the guy I'd go with. Casey, bring us up to speed on some other players you like.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you look at Logan Gilbert, I think his ERA is that high because he had one bad outing. I don't think it was
first outing.
A culmination of just bad luck or anything. It was one bad outing. And when I hear Ross say playoffs, Dan and I in our history lived in Philly during a time where Allen Iverson went with practice. And so I hear the same thing when Allen Iverson's practice ran. But that's totally besides the point. I'm going to go with a player who people might not really think of because he's only 14% owned. And he was an under-the-wire, like an under-the-radar kind of trade to the Milwaukee Brewers. And that was Rowdy Tellez, the first baseman for the Milwaukee Brewers now. They have suddenly got a pretty deep lineup with Adames playing as well as he is. They added Eduardo Escobar. They're going to get Yelich back, I think, tomorrow, so hopefully he'll start producing. And Tellez in the past 2 weeks has 15 RBIs to go along with 5 home runs. And this is a guy who in Toronto had a couple seasons where he hit more than 20 home runs. So I don't think it's a fluke with him. If you need RBIs, if you need power, he crushes righties. So he's going to play a majority of the time if they decide to do a platoon.
You see what he did today, Casey? He pitched it today.
Did he?
He hit a 3-run home run.
Wasn't it a 3-run home run? Yeah. So
unbelievable.
This is a guy who can just contribute. And then I'm going to go, he's still only 42% owned, Dan, and you've been banging the drum on him, I think, for the better part of 5 weeks, and that's Paul Sewald in Seattle. They traded Graveman. I don't know if they got anybody. I think they added Diego Castillo.
They did add Diego Castillo, which kind of poured some cold water on it. I would still argue, I think,
but I still think he's going to get half the saves because Castillo was never an everyday closer, even when he was in Tampa Bay. So this is a guy who, in the last 2 weeks alone, has a win and a save, .16 WHIP. Yes, in 6 innings, he's given up 2 hits? Is that in 6 1/3 innings? Maybe.
Yep. Right.
He's just been dominant for the better part of 2 months. And so he's going to get save chances. He's going to pitch in high leverage situations, which means he can get some wins for you. And his peripherals are great. So that's, you're looking for, at this point, you're looking for quality innings as much as you're looking for wins and saves. And Sewald's going to give you everything.
Now, let me give you another closer that I didn't talk about that much, although interestingly, I did own him in our league. I don't want that to be mistaken for I was hiding him. It's just we had so many people to talk about. But on the Pirates, David Bednar is somebody who's going to get, I think he's going to get save chances. He's also pitching really well. So like Casey said, you should at least be getting a guy who's giving you good innings, who has a good chance to get some saves. And Ross made this point, and I totally agree. Get the players that are on those bad teams. They're still going to get saves. Every team is going to win some. So David Bednar is somebody that I would look at to add. Ross, anybody to add before we wrap up for today?
Yeah, one more. I mean, he was part of the Dodger trade, and he went to the Nationals. And this guy, I loved him when he pitched for the Dodgers. I'm not a Dodger fan, but Josiah Gray in the minors, 2.68 ERA. WHIP. I know you're a WHIP guy, Dan. His WHIP in the minors is .64. It's not bad at all.
Yum.
0.64. I mean, his ERA is kind of high in the majors. Give him a little time. Give him a little nourishment. He'll be pitching great for the Nationals. Pick him up now. He's going to be good in about one more start, and he'll be great. Trust me.
All right, Casey, I'll give you one more name to throw out there before we wrap up, and I'll say one more as well.
All right, I'm going to go with Dalton Varsho. Only because he plays the outfield but qualifies a catcher. And in the last he's only 42% owned, but in the last 2 weeks, he's got 4 home runs and 8 RBIs and a .333 average. If you can put that in your catcher position for the end of the season, if he does 80% of that performance for the next month and a half, you're going to have maybe the strongest catcher in fantasy baseball. And that's a place where you can gain a lot of ground in almost every category.
That's a great pick, and I actually have another catcher, which is Omar Narvaez, is still under 60% owned. If you need a catcher, snag him. And meanwhile, catcher is one of those places where you can make up a lot of games. Maybe you're 10 over in the outfield, but you're 17 behind a catcher like I am. Well, in that case, you're better off owning a catcher than an outfielder. You're not going to be able to play an outfielder for the last 10 games of the season or however much you're over. So know where you are in those statistics, know where you are in your team structure and how many games you've played, and that's going to tell you which kind of player to pick up. Now, let's wrap up for today, guys. We will be back same time next week. We are going to keep these shorter because we think the quick-hitting ones where we tell you exactly who to pick up right away are the ones that are going to be the most valuable. So come in. We'll tell you the players right away. And this has been a pleasure, guys. You guys did a great job preparing the people out there for it. For those of you out there, if you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally.
Oh, yeah. From Kill Cliff, the #1 clean energy drink in the mind of Joe Rogan, comes the Flamin' Joe. Sugar-free, B vitamins, electrolytes, all them good drink things. An epic spicy pineapple fusion from out of this world, straight into your drink hole. Own it. KillCliff.com